Alright, hello everybody. My name is Justin Clay. I'm a student here at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine in the Biomedical Master's Program. We're going to be talking about plant nutrition today. Alright, to start out, we have to talk about what are nutrients. A nutrient is a compound that's derived from various sources of energy and is incorporated into an organism to meet the metabolic needs. There's two different types of nutrients that we can derive this from, macronutrient and a micronutrient. And this is based on the amount of each substance that that the plant needs in order to meet its metabolic needs. So a macronutrient is the substance or a compound that is needed in at least 1 gram per kilogram of mass of the plant. And a micronutrient, on the other hand, is required in at least 0.1 grams per kilogram of mass of plant. So it's just based on the amount that the plant needs. So what do plants use for energy? Obviously, we all know that light is essential for the growth of the plant. And there are also other essential nutrients also. Some macronutrients required. They need carbon, obviously, and they get that partly from us, from humans, who we exhale carbon dioxide. Oxygen, which they can get from the air, soil, and water. Hydrogen from water. Nitrogen and potassium, calcium, and magnesium, which are all from the soil. To continue on in this subject, they also need some micronutrients, which are these are all found in the soil. Chlorine, iron, manganese, boron, zinc, sodium, and copper. Obviously, some of those should sound familiar, as humans also require a lot of those as well. It's a beautiful picture of a tree right there. There are also some limiting factors. So we've all heard of the term limiting factors. So in this case, it's referring to nutrients that are required for the growth of the plant. So obviously light, CO2, and water are all vital for the growth of the plant. And plants that do not receive enough of these are not going to be able to grow unless they resort to using carbohydrate sources for energy. And if they don't get enough nutrients, they will lose the leaves and they'll look unhealthy. And we'll come back to what happens when there's nutrient deficiencies a little later on. Just like any other organism, plants have had to adapt to meet the metabolic needs and to meet the resources available in their environment. So they adapted by using chlorophyll to absorb the light, and we've heard of this in our introductory biology classes. It's a green substance. It's what gives the plants the green color on their leaves. This green substance is in the mesophyll layer, and it can be actually damaged by high intensity sunlight. So trees and plants and desert environments their chlorophyll can actually be damaged because of such the high intensity of sunlight. Another adaptation, tall trees, such as in a rainforest, with many leaves, they have adapted to use thin leaves because obviously some leaves are going to be more exposed to the sunlight than others, so they have adapted to this by making their leaves thinner so that light can pass through it and reach leaves that are a little bit more hidden by some of the other plants and the other leaves on the same tree. So this just allows for the entire plant to be supplied by the sunlight as opposed to just the most exposed leaves. Metabolizing CO2 with water right here. normally. But if it can't obtain enough CO2, then it's going to use phosphoenolpyruvate carboxylase, and then eventually CO2 will incorporate into with organic molecules inside the Calvin cycle. Water is obviously important. Shocking story right there. Plants need water to grow. I think we have all known that since adolescence, that plants need water to grow. It serves as a source of hydrogen and oxygen, and it allows for, as we mentioned earlier, CO2 to be absorbed on the leaves. It kind of serves as a solvent on the leaves. And it also serves as a solvent for minerals as well. Soil, this is what plants grow in. This provides water for the plant, and as we just talked about the importance of water, so there are also microorganisms in the soil that contribute to the richness of the soil. So if we see darker soil, oftentimes this is because the plant is the microorganisms are decaying a lot of organic matter into the soil. There's different layers of the soil, as we can see on a picture on the next slide. There's the topsoil, which is the top layer, and then going from top to bottom, we have the subsoil, the soil base, and the bedrock. Once again highlighted in this picture. Weathering can also occur, which is the erosion of rocks, and this contributes to the inorganic composition of soil. It actually adds minerals to the soil for plants. So weathering is adding minerals to the soil. Leaching, on the other hand, is taking away minerals. It's when there's heavy rainfall, it will remove some of the nutrients in the soil, and this will pass, into other tributaries of water and eventually into larger bodies of water. But the main important theme right here is that it's taking away nutrients from the soil. And soil with high clay composition actually contains a lot of anions, and these anions actually help keep some of the minerals in the soil, such as calcium. So obviously the anions are going to bind to the cation minerals, and divalent cation minerals will actually bind more tightly than monovalent cation minerals. And this helps keep the minerals in the soil. Nitrogen, we've all heard of nitrogen fixation, and this is a very important process in our environment. Nitrogen is a limiting factor in plant growth. It is required for the synthesis of amino acids and nucleotides. It's obtained by plants in the form of NH3, NH4, or NO3-, and these forms of nitrogen are called fixed nitrogen. So this is what nitrogen fixation eventually produces, are these compounds. Now, microorganisms are the organisms that are doing the nitrogen fixation. They're capable of oxidizing NH4+ to NO3-. Plants uptake nitrogen through the plasma membrane. They have proteins that help on the plasma membrane bring them in, and then the nitrogen goes to the xylem, which is just another part of the plant. And then from there, the nitrogen can either be stored or used. So going back to nitrogen fixation, hydrogen gas and nitrogen gas from the atmosphere combine together. This is the whole main process right here. It occurs in biological cycles as well as in industry. Biological cycles are going to contribute a large portion of this. Some microorganisms are the organisms performing the biological aspect of nitrogen fixation. Oftentimes they're cyanobacteria, that's the type of microorganism that is doing this. And they use an enzyme called nitrogenase. And this fixed nitrogen is eventually transferred to plants. So to break down this process in a little more detail, N2 is going to bind to nitrogenase enzyme. That's the first step. Second step, this compound will be reduced by the addition of 2 hydrogen atoms. So the more hydrogen we have and the less oxygen we have, this is reduction. So they're adding hydrogen atoms to this. This step uses ATP, and it occurs 3 times. So it's occurring 3 times to produce 2 molecules of NH3, which in step 3 are released. And these molecules form ammonium ions by dissolving in water. Continuing on with nitrogen, to use the nitrogen, it must be in the form of ammonium ion in plants. And nitrate reductase and nitrite reductase are the enzymes that are reducing the nitrogen sources to the ammonium ion. And eventually, ammonium ion is converted to glutamine using glutamine synthetase, which we talked about in biochemistry. So here's just a picture talking about the nitrogen cycle. And as explained earlier, the industrial sources can also contribute to nitrogen fixation. And here's all the big process. Leaching, this is removing nutrients from the soil. Obviously fertilizers are in the soil, so that's a whole nother topic, is leaching of fertilizers, which is, can play a role in oceanic environments. Some other important nutrients that are we need to touch on: calcium, which is used as a signaling molecule in plants as well as in humans. It is also a component of cell walls. Magnesium, which is a part of the chlorophyll. This is what's absorbing the light. And also some plants contain sulfur. So talking about some nutrient deficiency symptoms, chlorosis is a symptom that can cause the leaves to turn yellow. And this is because the chlorophyll requires certain nutrients, and if it's not getting these, it can't maintain that green color. So this is just one indicator that maybe the plant isn't obtaining certain nutrients, such as magnesium, which we talked about is required for the chlorophyll. If the plant loses leaves, this is another symptom. And so certain plants are also going to require different nutrients. So that depends on the environment that the plant is in. And here's a picture talking about chlorosis, which is just the yellowing of the leaves. It's losing that green color from the chlorophyll. And that is it. Thank you very much. I hope you guys learned something about plant nutrition. Thank you.